Welcome back, my little quiz dumplings. Did you miss me? Did you miss me just a little bit? Just a teensy little bit. No, you didn't. You didn't. You got on with your lives. Got on with your lives. But anyway, here today is episode 5 of my top 100 UK game shows of all time. Today we'll be going over my number 60 to my number 51. The top 10 of my bottom 50. Hurrah! Let's get on with it. Here is my number 60 to my number 51. So my number 60 might be quite obscure, but it's bound to leave you in a spin. So my number 60 is the quite obscure BBC game show Incognito. Now I know a lot of people won't remember this, so I'll quickly go over how it works. Basically, it's all based around these word wheels. So basically, there'd be like lots of words hidden within other words, hence the name Incognito. And basically, this would revolve slowly, and the contestants had to answer questions based on words that were hidden in the wheel. This has kind of got that sort of word searchy element, that sort of almost like crosswits, that sort of crossword element to it. But a reason I've put this show on my list is because I just think it's really well made, and I think it looks great as well. I love these sort of columns that they use to sort of represent the questions, and basically not only do they represent the questions, they represent how many guesses they get. So if someone doesn't get it first time, someone else can go to it, but eventually it will wear out, so we don't hear the same question over and over and over again. That's very clever. I love the set. I like how the word wheel sort of revolves and looks, and sort of the clever way it hides a lot of the letters a lot of the time. I like the rounds, so it's quite similar to crosswords in some ways, in that there's like a normal round, and then there's a cryptic round where it's more like a crossword clue. This is just a really well made show. I really like the puzzle at the centre of this. I think it looks slick as all hell. I think BBC daytime game shows are really hard to get right because they have to be quite gentle, and game shows don't necessarily suit being gentle a lot of the time. But this one manages it, and that's why it's my number 60, Incognito. So my number 59 is unusual, because normally what I would do at this point is show you some video, and then I would get multiple YouTube copyright claims, which I have to deal with. But number 59 doesn't have any decent footage online that I can nab, so unfortunately I'm going to have to just talk about it. My number 59 is Body Heat, the ITV game show from the 90s. Basically off the back of Gladiators, there was this kind of like yuppie-ish sort of exercise faddy thing going on in the country, and Body Heat is basically all just about those fads. So you would have couples come on the show, they'd wear coloured like leotards in different colours, and then basically they would take on different sort of fitness tasks. So this might be rowing, or it might be like the bleep test, or that, do you remember those like batak boards you used to get where you'd have to hit the coloured lights? All those sort of things you'd remember, and they would be rated, the men would take on the men, the women would take on the women, but it was quite cool because they were rated as a couple. I just like how they tapped into something with this, that those games were so distinct and unique from other shows. I really liked the fact they built up to this quite epic final where they'd been in the studio the whole time, but then for the final they sort of went out. I think sometimes they went to like a hot country and did it. I remember being quite transfixed by this show. I just thought it was really interesting, really well made, and it was quite aspirational to sort of want to be like these fit people. I certainly think it's one of the better Gladiators sort of rip-offs I've seen, because it sort of stood for something else. So that is why Body Heat is my number 59. So my number 58 is difficult because I have to sit here and justify that it wasn't just about her bottom. So my number 58 is Treasure Hunt. The reason I like this is probably clear to quite a few people who've watched these up to this point. I just like the scale and the ambition of it. How do you make a game show seem important? Stick a helicopter in it. That's a pretty good way. That makes it matter. I love the ambition. I love the scale of this format. I like how it sort of showcases the countryside of this country. I mean, this was a primetime show when it first started. It used to get 7 million viewers at one point. That's absolutely massive. But because I'm a bit younger, I sort of more remember it as a daytime show, those sort of repeats. But I actually think it worked. It was a wonderful show to have in daytime because it was just like, it would just show you like the sprawling countryside in daytime of this country and sort of show how beautiful this country was. And I think that was an underestimated factor of this show. I watched a couple of episodes back before making this video, and what really struck me about it was something I hadn't realised before, in that Treasure Hunt may have been like the precursor to sort of escape rooms. There's that sort of thing where they give the clues, and obviously it's not a room, but they're in the big wide world, but there's that sort of gentle nudging thing that goes on to make sure it's always a tense finish. So like if they're completely lost, the hosts basically know where to go and sort of steer you to the right book to read and things like that. That's very clever about this format, and sort of shows that this format was miles ahead of its time. They brought this show back with an international version, and as much as it was really well made, I think it sort of slightly missed the point, because I think the fact that it was sort of like this celebration of this country was really important, and to show just like how amazing Britain was. And I don't think that sort of feels the same when it's in like New Orleans. I don't think it actually helps it that it's on an international scale. I think it needs to be about this country. I think that makes it better. I think it makes it more relevant, more important. Annika Rice was obviously a massive part of this show. Her sort of boundless enthusiasm for doing these random tasks was very infectious with viewers at home. And we loved her for it, and we loved all the people in the studio, and it was just such a wonderful show, and the sort of ambitious show that Channel 4 were making at that time. I can't help but like this show, and that's why Treasure Hunt is my number 58.
He's taking off his trousers or doing something.
Is there a clue in them?
Okay, the clue! No, perhaps he wasn't.
Face saving
He's
exercise.
just adjusting his belt, but from a distance.
You won't do
Now
that, would you?
oh my goodness me, there's all sorts of... Oh look, there's someone down there who's a bit stuck. Is there something in the clue about someone halfway up, do you think?
Well, it says
face-saving
Hello,
exercise.
have you got a clue?
It's the, it'll be the mountain rescue
Yes,
people.
there it is!
He's probably waiting
got
for
it,
you,
you've
Annie.
got
Probably
it.
got stuck.
Oh, crumbs. Someone's got the clue and he's just lurking halfway up the mountain.
Have you got any rope, Annie?
Have I any rope? Oh dear, how
Just about your person.
do I get up there? Can you land on top, Keith? Oh, these people
Can they
are
let you out or pull him in or anything?
Yes, it's looking ominous. There's all sorts of people with crash helmets on and harnesses, and this sort of... I feel quite ill suddenly. This sort of sheer rock face. This guy with a clue halfway up. Oh well. Can you look after that? Matt.
Has she ever done abseiling before?
Yes.
We'll go and investigate. I think yes.
Yes, you must.
We're going down.
Where are you landing, Annie?
No, we're landing right at the top of Bock Beagle.
20 minutes to go.
Right, okay, Graham. Oh, Graham! Oh, Graham and Frank have done the dirty on me again. They often do this. They've left me and they've taken
Gone.
off. They've gone.
So, my number 57 for me is the best demonstration of how to make a good, modern, new game show.
Legend speaks of a game once played in a hidden British estate, haunted by centuries of evil. They say money was locked in chests to tempt the brave, the greedy, and the foolish.
Oh, Jesus!
Now, in a dark corner of Eastern Europe, a place beyond the rule of law, the game is being played anew. But this time with the famous.
So my number 57 is Release the Hounds. I loved this from the moment I first saw it. When I heard about it, I thought it was a good idea. When I saw the first episode, I was kind of giddy. I just thought it was great. What this show does so well is it ring fences a whole sort of realm of terror for itself in sort of aping horror movies, but it's all hooked on to that great moment you haven't seen on another show, which is the Release the Hounds moment. So the idea of dogs chasing you is genuinely terrifying, and they're so clever to have made that the end game of the show, because that is something we haven't seen anywhere else and we're not going to get anywhere else. Because it's not very horror flavoured, is it, being chased by dogs, but they, despite the whole rest of the show being that horror flavoured, but they've recognised that that's the uniqueness of the show. Brilliant. So clever. The rest of the games are really well made. They've realised, like, I'm a Celebrity is really popular, and they've sort of thought, how can we make something scary and terrifying in our own right? They've sort of looked at the world of horror movies. It's so, like, there's so much, like, great moments in horror, deep lore, and they've just thrown that through all these games. These games look amazing. They've done such a good job. There was one episode with Diversity that genuinely made me laugh so much that I just love this show.
Fuck, no. Rage, you don't understand, Rage, I can't do this, Rage, please, no, Rage, seriously, man, all jokes aside, you don't get it, please, guys, please, get him away from me. Guys, please, guys, you don't understand, guys, seriously, please. Guys, please, I'm actually begging you, please get up.
Sit down, just take a seat, I got your back, take a seat.
Rage, please, I'm asking, please get that away from me, man, please get that away.
I really like the idea. The other thing I think is so clever about the show is the fact that they split off the contestants to face things on their own, and you can just see their sort of faces drop. It's just wonderful. This is how you make a modern game show. This is how you find something that no one else is doing. You then make it your own. You sort of go, no, this load of games, this is ours, that's our thing, you can't have it. And because of that, it feels completely different from any other show on TV. Love Release the Hounds. I wish I could put it higher, but I can't, because as much as I appreciate how well it's made, it's not my favourite show on this list, obviously. But I have so much respect for how it was made, and that's why my number 57 is Release the Hounds. Oh, they're wolves. They're wolves, not hounds.
Fucking hell. Once upon a time, there were 3 friends who entered a very scary wood. They were searching for 3 keys that opened chests filled with money. All alone in the dark wood, the last friend found a dolly hanging from a noose. The dolly asked for a story, so the last friend sat down in a chair to read to her. Oh no. Behind the chair was... Oh, please. Please. No! Fuck off.
So my number 56 is my favourite game show by Vernon Kay. Yes, this is it. It's the return of Super Niche Ben! My number 56 is Head Jam. This used to go on in that sort of BBC Egghead slot. Really liked this show when it was on. So basically, Head Jam was kind of like a quite light, fluffy, celebrity-led sort of nostalgia quiz. But the reason this is on my list is because I quite liked all the games that were in it. There was this great game which they had, which was called Tat or Tate, and basically they would show pictures of some sort of modern art, and the celebrities had to guess which ones were real modern art and which ones they just made in the office out the back. That's funny. That's clever. And that sort of cleverness is sort of throughout all these games. You know, some of the games are a bit more dull. They're just like, oh, what these events happen on these dates. But a lot of shows have tried to do the nostalgia quiz thing. I think this show's done it better than everyone else. Vernon Kate is really good on this show, and it's just like there's a lot of like, it sort of feels like it's filled with those like really fun pub quiz rounds that you sort of get in other you don't get in other shows. So it's like people love guessing TV theme songs. Let's just have a round that guesses TV theme songs. This show just delivers that. So I really like all the games. It's just really like joyous to watch. The celebrities weren't that sort of, you know, big bookings or anything, but it didn't really matter because they were all chosen because they really loved nostalgic things, and that worked really well. If there's one weakness of the show and reason it sort of holds it back from being higher on my list, it's the end game. It's this sort of slightly lame memory game where they just like have to remember the answers. But to be honest, when it got to the end game, I quite often turn over because I felt like the fun was a little bit done. But the rest of the games are so much fun and sort of just give me that sort of lovely, nostalgic pub quiz feeling that I didn't get from other shows at that time. And that's why Head Jam is my number 56. So, for my number 55, quite often we can work in quite a bitchy industry in TV, like to have a go at everyone else. But there's a show that's my number 55 that I've literally never heard anyone slag off because I think deep down everyone kind of loves it. This is my number 55.
Those magnificent men in their flying machines, they go hop diddly up hop, they go down diddly down down. Down diddly down down? Oh, I hope not. Ha!
So my number 55 is the wonderful Scrapheap Challenge, which was one of those shows that I nearly forgot to put on my list. It's also probably one of those shows that stretches the definition of game show most on my list, but I think it is a game show and that's why it's here. This is not naturally my kind of show. It's like I'm not like a massive fan of like Top Gear and shows like that, but this show was just so infectious that I couldn't help but get dragged into it. I used to religiously watch this on a Sunday. It just felt like perfect Sunday viewing. It's like quite relaxing to watch these people sort of work on their catapults or whatever ridiculous vehicles they were making. And I think the reason this show is good is because obviously like the mechanics of it is quite interesting, but they just cast this so well, and talking to those engineers and all that was so wonderful. Robert Llewellyn's such a great character to sort of like push it all. I just loved everything about the show at the time. I loved the challenges at the end of the show. I liked the fact that they could all go sort of catastrophically wrong and something wouldn't work properly at all. I liked the fact it had this sort of heats and final sort of structure so that we would get to see people again trying to build something new. Really liked all that. Liked the experts coming in. Liked how it looked. Liked the fact that we were in a completely different world of like the scrap heap. And there was all these like really cool like chalkboard drawings, the ones that they actually do there, but then all like the animations that really helped bring it to life and sort of made it like, it felt like we were learning a lot as well. This was such a wonderfully made show, so sort of joyous. I remember it being quite a big part of that moment of my life, and I think it's testament to this format that this kind of show can be as high on my list as number 55. And that it is my number 55 Scrapheap Challenge. So my number 54 wins the award for the most pointless revolving set of all time. No, it's not Number Wang, it's this.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's your host, Richard Madeley.
So my number 54 is Runway. Oh, I love the show. I really want to talk about this show. Obviously it was hosted by Chris Sale before, but I'm very much a bit younger than that, so I very much remember it being Richard Madeley. And it's sort of been passing between This Morning and then we went straight to Runway. So it's very much a morning game show, which we don't get so much anymore. This is pretty forgotten, so I'll just quickly tell you how it worked. Basically, this is a game show where you could win a holiday. But the whole idea of the show was that it was like an airport departure lounge. It didn't really look like that, but that's what it was meant to be. And sort of all the rounds were about like checking your passport and all that sort of shit. Whatever. But I love the way the show looks. I loved the rounds. And I really like the end game. So Rich Madeley was really good on this show. He's like, he's quite a capable game show host for all his sort of Alan Partridge nature. But there was 2 rounds I really liked on the show. The first one I really liked was the departure board, where it was this like grid 3x3 would come out, and basically they'd have a picture in the background and it would be themed, and basically you had to try and blot out all the answers, but if you gave a wrong answer you would remove that answer from the screen. So you could only get the perfect 9 out of 9 if you gave all the answers first time. That round's quite simple, but I like the presentation of it. I'm a bit of a fan of a grid. I can't get over grids. I love grids. More game shows with grids, please. So I really like that game, and then I really like the Runway game at the end, and they sort of presented it in 2 different ways. There was a physical version of it which looked epic, and then there was a not physical version of it which didn't look as epic but still looked good. And basically they would see a country at the end of the runway, and basically they would decide whether to answer questions on that country or pass on to a different country, but it was important which country they're asking questions on, because that was the country they would go on holiday to if they won. So that was quite an interesting decision sometimes, because it's much easier to answer questions about France than it is about Egypt, but France isn't as good a holiday as Egypt. So I really liked all this show. There was quite a lot of boring stuff within this show as well. There was like all sort of talks about newspapers and like what happened in your year, which ironically something like Head Jam did the nostalgia a lot better than this show. But those rounds I really liked, and I really like the way this show feels. And it really sort of has been burnt into my memory, this show, from my childhood. And I just constantly go back and look at it, and I really like it. But I do recognise it's not the greatest game show of all time, which is why, everyone, it's my number 54, Runway. So my number 53 is another modern game show, and one I just have masses of respect for. So my number 53 is Tenable. Working in TV, I'm very lucky in that I get to go into a lot of run-throughs of game shows, including obviously shows by my own company, wherever I'll be working at the time. But I've also done a lot of shows for other companies within the same building or whatever. And I did a lot of run-throughs for Tenable. And from the very first moment I saw it, I just thought it was brilliant. I just think the central thing at the centre of it was the top 10s. I just think that's so much fun to try and guess anything. The top 10 of anything is just so much fun to guess. I've ended up doing that quite a lot of times just around the office, going, oh, it is an interesting top 10, let's see if we can guess this one. So that's really great, and that sort of, this show is all about that, and it's unique to the show, which, as I've said before, is so important. It was really interesting watching this show sort of develop. It could have gone down a very simple route. It decided not to do that. It decided to give the contestants really interesting decisions all the way through. And those decisions got more and more interesting over time whilst this was being developed. And I really appreciate it for that. Warwick Davis is really good on this. I like the fact we're seeing a new face on ITV, but it's also very capable. He's a very capable host. We see a lot of the same faces on ITV, so it's really great to see someone new. Love that set. Love the sort of purple and green set like that. I love that vortex moment. I know it's sort of naff, but I love naffness. I love the fact it's not ashamed of being naff. Great, love that. This is so well made. It's everything about it's so well made, and watching it grow into what it was a real joy, and that's why Tenable is my number 53.
And when you're ready, give me an answer.
Elizabeth III.
Is Elizabeth III tenable?
I thought I was going to get through a whole 10 without mentioning a kids game show. I haven't. It's one here at number 52 and one that was sadly short-lived.
Systems activated. Going up.
So my number 52 is Incredible Games. They're great. This is a show that's much loved by game show fans, and sadly it only had 2 series. So basically this game show, kids enter a lift and the lift is sentient, and in series 1 that was played by David Williams, and series 2 it wasn't. No one remembers who plays it in series 2, but someone else did. But interestingly about the show, series 1's a lot more famous because David Williams was in it, but I far prefer what it became in series 2. Let's talk about how the show works. So basically the kids get in the lift, they go up to different levels, and the lift opens, and it could be literally anything. And when I say literally anything, it could be one of about 6 or 7 different games, because they didn't have many games in series 1. But basically there were all these sort of crazy, weird challenges, and they would try and earn credits, and if they could get enough credits, they'd go to they would shoot through the roof and win the big prize. But in the second series they changed it up, and it was much more interesting because they would have to get to the penthouse and they would win prizes in the penthouse. So it wasn't about just simply like reaching a certain score. They had to, like, the more credits they had for the final, the better. They also had this really good mechanic where if you lost a game, you would disappear down a laundry chute, and then the contestants would have to go back and get them and play this game to get them back. That was great. I love that. And I just thought those dynamics were very interesting in the show. Yeah, so the first series, it just had too few games, but the games they did have were fantastic. Everyone remembers the soup game where they would shrink the kids down and they would all have to dive into sort of a noodle soup and try and get the letters, the magnetic letters to stick up. The game that I used to play in the playground was the Dark Knight game, where this shadowy figure would go move, and then all the kids had to move across this grid, and it's a really clever game because you had to move forward, and then once you moved forward you had to move left or right, and then once you moved left or right you were forced to move forward, which sometimes made you walk into the Dark Knight. That was a great game, but also the Dark Knight could see these lights, so he could see where you had moved but couldn't see where you were now. Wonderful games. Love the games about this. I think that's what propped up this format in the first series. The second series added a few more games, had that sort of laundry chute moment, had the penthouse. I think it just looked a lot better. And for me, that's what makes this show be on my list, was because series 2 was so much better than series 1. I think this is a show loads of people have fond memories of. I have really fond memories of it too, and that's why it's my number 52, Incredible Games.
Just little Kate left, and she's gone straight into it. We've lost Kate. He got all of it. Ooh, what next? I mean, I don't know where they are. And I can't press the button, so I can't find them. Unless I can do it manually. Hang on, I'll have a look. Right, is it here? No. Ow, not there. No. Hang on, this might be it. Yes, we're travelling now. We're looking for them. I can't find them anywhere. No, they're not here. No, really? Oh, okay. We're going up. We're looking for 3 children. Are they here? No, hang on. They might be here. Are you there? Yeah, you're back. I was so worried about you. I was so lonely here. It was just me.
So, I hope you're all ready for number 51. Let's go. I haven't got enough room. I need to get round. There we go. 51, roll VT.
It's Winning Lines with your host, Philip Schofield.
So yes, my number 51 is another National Lottery game show. It is Winning Lines. Now, this is a very, very strange show because I don't like 80% of it. Don't get me wrong, it was very well hosted. You know, Simon Mayo did it, Philip Schofield did it. Both really good hosting, made it feel it mattered. But there's this opening game where you've got like 49 contestants, each representing one of the 49 balls, and they're all trying to guess the answers to questions faster than everyone else. That was okay, I guess. It wasn't that bad. There was then this next round where they had to, the 6 qualifiers were all playing for the chance to play the end game, and basically if it was their number that was the answer to the question, they had to buzz in and get it right. Otherwise, if someone else got it, they would knock them out of the game. Never really liked that mechanic. Just felt like a bit unfair, to be honest. Just felt like if it was your number, you were largely screwed. However, all that said, round 1, not that great. Round 2, pretty bad. Round 3, the Wonderwall, I'm going to say it, is the greatest endgame of all time.
Answer, say anything, it means that we can move on at top speed. We wish you the very best of luck this evening. Okay, nice and calm. Let's play Wonderwall! Reveal the answers, please. There you go, Dave. There's your Wonderwall. All you've got to do is to find the answers and the numbers. Everything you need is right there in front of your very eyes. Try and remember as much as you possibly can. And if you're ready, we're playing!
And if this endgame was in a better show, this would be in my top 10. It's not though. So why is the Wonderwall so wonderful? It's just everything about it. It's so epic. So just the way they set it up, and like they get in the chair, and that's what I tried to do then. The seat sort of revolves around into position. Love that. And then basically they play this game, which I'll show for you now. And they're trying to sort of scan the wall for answers and desperately trying to lock in the answers to bump up their holiday to hopefully a round the world trip. I thought it was quite funny that if they only got one right, they'd go to Spaghetti Junction like that. That was funny. But this game is completely made by its music. The music to this round is just so wonderful. If you cannot be sucked into this game with this music, you're dead inside. You're dead. I just think it's just so brilliant.
Pit stop taken with 1.5 minutes to go. 1 minute 31 seconds. You are already in Paris. Perfectly on course. Nice and easy. Which day in the Christian calendar celebrates Christ passing from earth to heaven? And if you're ready, we are playing.
18th century.
Correct.
And it's just, this game show guarantees to be exciting. this end game guarantees to be exciting until the very, very final moment. And I just appreciate that so much in this show, that I would be willing to sit through the rest of the show to get to this one absolutely wonderful end game that I could watch again and again and again, and they should make it just a daytime show where we just watch the Wonderwall. Love that. It's not the highest National Lottery game show on my list, but it's a very, very good one with a very, very amazing end game, and that's why my number 51 is the National Lottery winning lines. So, bottom 50 is done. Now we're moving on to the top 50. Join me next time to find out what they are. But for now, let's take on the Wonderwall. I can't move round. Let me move round. I can't move round. I'm stuck. Help.